Hey there, Saki here from Saki Tech, and in today's video, we will do a full comparison between the OnePlus 5 versus the iPhone 7 Plus. To put things in perspective, the OnePlus 5 was released in June 2017, while the iPhone 7 Plus in September 2016. So the iPhone 7 Plus is 9 months older. The OnePlus brand has made quite a buzz in the smartphone world since its inception, and has positioned itself to be compared to flagships from all brands, including Apple. So people are wondering, which one of these smartphones is better? And that's exactly what we're going to find out in this video today by comparing every aspect of these smartphones and drawing a crystal clear conclusion on which one to buy or just determine which one is better. Let's dive in and start with the build and design. When you look at these two phones side by side with a quick glance, you might think it's the same phone. So the design language is quite similar, with dual cameras on the rear occupying the same position as well as having pleasing rounded corners. Not only that, even the build quality is virtually identical. Both phones are constructed with a unibody aluminum finish, so overall both phones are pretty, well crafted and premium. But the iPhone 7 Plus quickly pulls ahead once you realize that it has two high fidelity stereo speakers, one on the top, one on the bottom, as well as the fact that it is water resistant with a grade of IP67. So you don't have to worry about water splashes, rain, or even dust and sand on the beach. OnePlus 5 on the other hand has only one mono speaker and has no water resistance. But it does have a headphone jack, which might be important to some people. Regardless, in this category, despite having a similar design language and craftsmanship quality, the iPhone 7 is the winner for speakers and water resistance. Now let's move on to the processor, memory, and storage options. The iPhone 7 Plus has a quad-core A10 Fusion processor with 3 GB of RAM with a base storage of 32 GB with the option to buy 128 GB or 256 GB model. The OnePlus 5 has an octa-core Snapdragon 835 processor with 6 GB of RAM if you get the 64 GB storage model, or 8 GB of RAM if you get the 128 GB model. Neither smartphone has an SD expansion slot. And looking at these benchmark scores, we can see that both of these smartphones are quite powerful smartphones. Now, it is important to mention that the OnePlus 5 starts at a price of $479 for the base model, while the iPhone 7 Plus starts at a price of $769 for the base model. So there certainly is a massive price gap between the two, which might affect the buying decision for our tight budgeted friends. In this category, I will give the overall win to the OnePlus 5 since it has more RAM and more storage for a much lower price tag. But we will observe that the raw performance is almost equal. Now let's quickly talk about the dimensions and weight. The OnePlus 5 measures 154.2 mm in height, 74.1 mm wide, and 7.3 mm thick. It weighs 153 grams. The iPhone measures 158.2 mm in height, 77.9 mm wide, and 7.3 mm thick. It weighs 188 grams. Dimensions are slightly different. The OnePlus 5 has more favorable numbers, but not too drastic to be a factor in making a choice between the two. I still like to share them for those of you who care. But let's quickly skip to a more important metric, the display. Both the iPhone 7 Plus and the OnePlus 5 have a 5.5-inch display with a screen resolution of 1920 by 1080, which is 1080p, and 401 pixels per inches. As you can see, both displays look gorgeous in the video. They're sharp, rich, and vibrant. iPhone 7 Plus does use a LED backlit IPS LCD technology, while the OnePlus 5 uses optic OLED. There really isn't much to say here. Is it a draw? Absolutely. Now let's move on to something much more important, the software. So the iPhone 7 Plus runs the latest version of iOS, while the OnePlus 5 runs the latest version of Android. OnePlus 5 does have its own tweaks and modifications atop Android, and they call this the Oxygen OS. As usual, when comparing iOS and Android, there are two big differences. The first one is customization. Android system is a much more open-ended environment and allows for extensive customization via widgets, themes, and home screen tweaking. You can certainly tweak an Android smartphone to fit your personal sense of style. You can even tweak the status bar icons on the top of the display to hide or show what's necessary, and even modify the software keys on the bottom to perform different functions. For instance, I can long press on the multitasking key to bring down the notifications panel instead of swiping it down. iOS, on the other hand, when it comes to home screens, is just a static grid of app icons with very basic customization capabilities, such as being able to change your wallpaper. On the other hand, iOS does offer more polished apps and a greater gaming experience. Just about every game on the iPhone 7, including graphically demanding games, will run at maximum performance with smooth and lag-free gameplay. A feat OnePlus 5 won't be able to match all the time. iPhone 7 also has more exclusive titles. Additionally, the Apple App Store does yield a larger number of quality apps as opposed to the Google Play Store. So if you care about apps and games and how well they perform, this is certainly something to pay very close attention to. And that's basically what the software boils down to. Now, OnePlus 5 is able to do split screen multitasking, which is a great tool to have as you can run two supported apps side by side, and the iPhone 7 Plus, it appears, will never have this option. The iPhone 7 does have 3D Touch, which is a pressure-sensitive screen that allows you to access quick actions and other gestures by pressing down on the screen with a certain amount of pressure. Not a bad feature. iPhone 7 is also guaranteed to be always up to date with the latest version of iOS, something Android smartphones have difficulty achieving. So basically, we are looking at an open-ended system with the OnePlus 5 that is more customizable, more tweakable versus a closed-ended system with iOS, which has a richer app ecosystem and a greater gaming experience. I can't really pick a winner here because software experience is completely up to the user. Both Android and iOS have their strengths, and they're two completely different worlds, and you have to choose what works best for you. Now let's move on to the camera. This is an interesting category. We have two smartphones that both have a dual camera setup. The iPhone 7 Plus has a 12 megapixel standard angle camera with an aperture of f1.8 and also a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with an aperture of f2.8. The OnePlus 5 has a 16 megapixel standard angle camera with an aperture of f1.7 and a 20 megapixel telephoto camera with an aperture of f2.6. The primary function of these telephoto options is that they both allow for 2 times optical zoom, which is a great function, and they also allow you to take nice portrait shots that can blur out the background, which is known as the cool bokeh effect. As for quality, OnePlus 5 camera has come pretty far, and for an average consumer, which most of us are, it will yield similar quality as the iPhone 7 Plus. If you get all scientific, you might notice that the iPhone 7 Plus overall is a better camera. But we are not professional photographers, we are just average consumers. Now, both cameras are capable of recording at 1080p at 30 or 60 frames per second, 4K at 30 frames per second, and slow motion video. The iPhone 7 Plus does do a better job stabilizing video at 4K resolutions, where the OnePlus 5 is quite jittery for now. So in this category, I will say that it is a draw because both cameras are great, and unless you are a professional photographer, you won't sweat the little differences. Let's move on to biometrics and security. So basically, both phones have super fast fingerprint sensors that work flawlessly 99% of the time. The OnePlus 5 fingerprint sensor seems slightly faster to unlock the phone, but is that really a big deal? Is your life so fast-paced that a few milliseconds of speed is going to change everything? Let's move on to battery life and charging. This is a category where the OnePlus 5 takes a lead. The battery life on either smartphone is rock solid and will last you a full day for medium to heavy use. In this respect, they are equally great. However, when it comes to charging, the OnePlus 5 takes a massive lead. It has what is called dash charge, which allows you to charge your phone from 0 to 68% battery life in 30 minutes. And it takes around 1.5 hours to charge the phone to 100%. The iPhone 7 Plus takes almost 3 hours to charge fully, so that's a big difference. The win in this category goes to the OnePlus 5. And now that we have looked at everything, let's draw a conclusion. So the question is, which one is the better buy? Let's list a few things that the iPhone 7 Plus has that the OnePlus 5 does not. IP67 grade water resistance, dual stereo speakers, and 3D touch. And that's it. Everything else is practically the same. OnePlus 5 does have faster charging. So beyond those little differences, the only other category to worry about is the software. And this is where you should base your choice. Do you want an open-ended customizable experience, or do you want a better app ecosystem? Because remember, the iPhone is basically an app and gaming wonderland. But you do have to pay the premium for the iPhone 7 Plus, and the price almost never goes down. Therefore, if you're on a tight budget, OnePlus 5 is the way to go, and the good news is you will not be disappointed. The only big loss really is the lack of dust and water resistance. Beyond that, it is a premium smartphone with a nice, solid feel and powerful performance. But again, the iPhone 7 Plus has its own unique flavor. It is a very well-made smartphone, it's powerful, and it is built around a superior ecosystem. So like I said, the biggest decision factor should be the software experience you prefer to have. And that's the end of this video. Make sure to drop a comment down below and let me know what you chose. And of course, make sure to subscribe to Saki Tech and give this video a thumbs up. Do not forget to follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Saki Tech Online. Guys, have a fantastic day. I'll see you in the next video.